realize that I've not actually been here for the last month and a half, and it's been sort of weird. I was telling Steven I felt kind of guilty coming back and immediately having a speech because I really do love being here and hearing the speeches, and so I just want to say thank y'all for putting up with me just coming back and taking your time. Okay, so as everyone was talking today about the generations, I wanted to do a little introduction because I actually feel like my speech ties really well into the conversation about generations. And it kind of made me chuckle because I think even my topic sort of reflects my generational challenges / perspective. I'm on the cusp of millennial and Gen Z. Technically, I'm a Gen Z, but like my sister's a millennial, and I'm technically right at that edge. So I have a little bit of, perspective on both sides of that. And tonight, I want to talk about connection. And this also ties, I think, heavily into some of what we were talking about regarding screens. So some of my questions, I think it'll be interesting to hear the differences as it comes to generational perspectives on connection. So I have a few questions, and I'll just take like 1 or 2 answers for each. There are 2 for just raising your hand. So for this, just raise your hand. But how many of you have 3 to 5 people that you feel like really know you and see you for who you are? Okay, most all of you, good. Now, and you think about those relationships, and then 1 or 2 of you tell me what makes you feel seen or known in those relationships. What is it that stands out to you? Not everybody at once. Yeah.
For all of them, we could do silence. So if we're sitting in a restaurant, we don't necessarily have to be talking the whole time to still feel like it's a meaningful experience.
Yeah, so being comfortable in silence, that's a really good one. All right, well, yeah.
We reach out, connect on a fairly frequent basis.
Okay, so connection regularly.
Not as much judgment.
Okay, not as much judgment. You feel like you can be yourself and they're not going to criticize you or judge you for that.
Time doesn't matter. If you haven't spoken in months, it's totally okay. And
Yeah.
then you pick up where you left off.
Yeah, so time doesn't matter. You feel like it's just easy and natural to get back into that, even if you haven't seen each other for months. Cool. Okay, so now the flip side of that. How many of you struggle with feelings of disconnection or discontent when it comes to your relationships? Okay. A fewer of you, but some of you. Okay. So what do you feel is missing, or why do you feel like that feeling? What is playing into that? Steven?
It's harder to, I think, to find the time to connect. There's so many things going on, and just being able to find the time to even start to build that connection.
Yeah, so finding the time when your life is busy and things are happening, if you don't already have that long-term relationship built. That's a good point. And then
My brother started a new job, and so he's away all the time, and I feel like all my friends are from high school or before.
okay, yeah, so like you're at that age where some of your friends feel too immature, like they're focused on the wrong things, and then people move away or get jobs and are busy. Okay. Anybody? Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to talk to people like when you have conflict that you're avoiding.
A conflict that you're avoiding? Yeah, so if something has come up that's awkward between you and figuring out how to have those conversations. Yeah, okay. So what's interesting is nobody actually answered the ways that I would have, and this is the generational thing, I think, because a lot of what I was thinking as I wrote this had to do with screens and had to do with just our over-connection with social media and how we connect. So many of our meetings now are over Zoom, a little bit like Steven said, where it's just not the same as meeting face to face. A lot of people like to text, preferring to rather than call. Even just the way that we connect relies more heavily on technology. And so I personally see a lot of my friends struggle with that because while we're overly connected in the technical sense of connection, which is just, bringing 2 things together, there isn't the feeling of connection because it's through a screen or it's through a filter of sorts. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about tonight, and I'll try to weave in some of your answers into this because I do think those are obviously relevant and things that we struggle with. But what's really important is quality over quantity, and this kind of goes to what Leslie was saying, that with the people you really feel connected with, it's not about how often you see them necessarily. If you really feel connected, you can see them once a year, once every 2 years, and feel like you pick up where you left off and the quality is there. So part of the problem, or what I see as a problem, is, again, we're more connected than ever, but we feel disconnected because the quality is not there. It's one of the things I love about this space because I feel like it is a space that even though I haven't been here in a month and a half, Steven comes home and tells me about it every week, so I've gotten updates. And I do feel like there's quality in this room, and so I leave feeling fulfilled and filled up. The other interesting thing that I've noticed is we spend a lot more time observing other people's lives, would it be at television, so even fictional characters, social media, and other forms of just media consumption, rather than actually being in people's lives. So we get this filtered version a lot of times. Rather than really getting to know someone's story, we hear it secondhand. And so really making time to ask questions and get to know somebody. So my opinion is that connection should not be curated or controlled. We should be able to let our guards down and take off our masks. A little bit like you were saying, where we want to feel not judged. We want to feel like we can be ourselves, have our bun up, put on have makeup, be messy and be seen. And especially for the younger generations, I know we talked about this with the Alpha generation. It'll be interesting to see how they navigate this, is that the digital age requires those masks and personas, and it feeds off of comparison, consumerism, curation of content. And so just being really mindful of that. And again, kind of like a lot of people have already said, I think it is important. I have kids who are Alpha, and helping them foster real connection that's away from screens and does teach those things where you take out the comparison, you take out the filters. And so I encourage each of you to really focus on what authentic connection looks like for you in this week to try to foster that, especially if you maybe are feeling a little lonely or disconnected right now. So some ways to do that are obviously get off social media for those that are on it. Call a friend you haven't talked to in a while. Don't just text them. Call them, get together, try to schedule those dates a little bit like Joe was saying, of regularly checking in with the people you care about. And then I think even more deeply on a personal level, just think about the ways that you curate yourself. And that can be in public too. What personas are you giving off, or things are you hiding about yourself, and how can you start to reveal more of your own story and engage someone else to get more of their authentic story. And there was a little story I was going to share. If you want to know it, you can ask me after this. But just think about small steps you can take to foster connection in your life. Thank y'all.